Hi, everyone. Hi, Consciously Created Motherhood. Tell us if you can hear us and see us. I had some technical challenges, um, but we're here now. This is Sarah. Is it good? Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm here with Sarah today. I'm Honor Janetsky, founder of Consciously Created Motherhood and Awakened Motherhood, my program. And Sarah, who's been through my program, is here today sharing from her heart with all of you. And Sarah is joining us from Wyoming. Will you just introduce yourself a little bit and say something about your family for the
Yeah,
ladies here?
sure. I'm Sarah, stay-at-home mom from Wyoming. My wife and I have been together 5 years, and we have five kids, age ranging from 16 down to five. Four out of five of them being boys. So,
It's a lot of boy energy. Awesome. And you are, we said this before, but it got dropped that you are a blogger vlogger. So will you say again the name of your blog, which I love so much, is hilarious.
yeah, it's just the seven of us with the number seven dot blog. And I've been writing blogs, but I also recently added vlogging as my attempt to like fix things around the house and doing some podcasts too. So,
So cool. And I love your conversations you're having on there. They're so next level. Yay! Someone can see us. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to close out my Facebook app so it doesn't get fussy. And I'm so glad for all of you joining us. Please say hi when you come on. Tell us where you're joining from, and just sit tight because it's such a treat to have Sarah here. She just has such a big, warm heart and is just mom extraordinaire to all of these kids. And I just feel so grateful that you're here. So, a great place to start in general is to just touch base about where you were when we first connected. And so, like before we talked or before you found me, I'd love for you to share with these women what was going on for you and what life looked like and felt like at that point.
yeah, I guess I was feeling pretty stressed and rock bottom by the time I called you. Um, just life had happened like within the past 5 years, divorce, same-sex marriage, coming out, moving, custody battles, like you name it, we did it in a very short time, and it just was too overwhelming for us to really handle and without taking it out on each other, I guess. And so by the time I found Honor, I'd been Facebook stalking her website or Consciously Created Motherhood site for a while and saw a couple good webinars that really spoke to me, but I was just so dubious of like this Facebook lady out there like is just going to have all the answers like everybody else is saying they do, like, and I feel like my whole life I had struggled with depression to some degree, and so it just felt like my brain just couldn't, it was so patterned and those ruts were so firm in there, like how could I possibly get out of that? And I was crying all the time, and for probably the past 2 years I had also added an anxiety to the point of like adrenal flight or fight response in me all day long, and like just stressed and just that anxiety building up, and crying, and I guess was getting fairly seriously suicidal thoughts. Not that I didn't love my life and my kids, but it got to a point where I felt like I am a really terrible mom. Everybody's blaming me for everything. I am the person that's caused a huge mess, and everyone would just really be better off without me. And so I had my clarity call with you, and just, I think I was crying then, just like I don't even know a way out. And it just seemed like such a giant leap of faith for me to do that. At the time, one of my biggest fears was the fear of looking stupid and falling for a scam.
Mm.
And you're
I've
probably
forgotten that. I had forgotten that. Yeah, we talked about that on the phone.
so here's this lady, and I'm supposed to just sign up kind of out of faith and invest money into, and man, that's going to make me look pretty stupid. But
Mm.
finally, I kind of made this deal with myself like, this is kind of my last ditch effort. I'm going to give this 100%. If it works, wonderful. If it doesn't, it will just be like concrete proof that nothing's going to work. And like, it'll just make me look really stupid
Hmm.
that I spent that kind of money and got nothing. And so it's just going to be like a good answer for me. And so I kind of even set a date after the 12-week program was up to like make or break kind of thing. So,
Man, okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I could just feel how low that place is that you were in, and I just feel the heaviness in my heart when you talk about that. And I remember that when we first spoke, of course, you didn't tell me all the details of this until later, until after you'd gone through the program. And I remember standing crying in my kitchen, realizing, holy shit, it's so important what I do. And I was just so grateful that you shared that with me because I knew when we first connected that you could have what you wanted. I had total certainty after talking with you and hearing where you are and how clear you were that you were ready. You were really ready for things to change. Really, and one way or another, what I didn't know is one way or another, they were going to change for you. That you weren't
yeah.
going to stay in what you were in. And just such a powerful story. So I'm just speaking to all the moms here who are listening, if this resonates for you, and if you have those moments of just such utter darkness where you are afraid that no one will understand, you are afraid that your doubts are so big, you fear that there's no hope for you. Just really encourage you to listen to what happened for Sarah after she decided to go all in for herself and open up her heart, and even um, really show up, like literally show up and be seen in front of other people, in front of me, to say, this is where I am and this is what I'm wanting. So will you give us a little bit of a picture of what's going on for you now? And since you finished your 12 weeks with me, and how it feels to be you now.
Yeah. I really like how it feels to be me now. I, this is going to sound corny, but almost within a week or two of starting your program, like our my marriage to my wife went from like extremely high conflict to almost zero, like um which was amazing because before I started, like I knew she and I were so connected, we'd often tangle in each other's energy.
Mhm.
And I thought part of my fear of pulling away was then I wouldn't feel as connected to her, even though it meant less conflict.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of like
That.
the high passion relationship, and you always have to have the flip side of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
But immediately
Like
the
accepting that as it's just a part of the way it has
yeah,
to
like if
go.
you
Yeah.
want the good, the really, really good stuff, you have to take the really, really bad stuff.
Mm.
Or it's just going to be kind of like so, like, yeah, I mean, this is nice and we get along and it's just a nice partnership.
Room. Mm-hmm.
What I've experienced in the last 6 months is like the extreme high without any of the low, and just connection on every level, which is pretty amazing to me because, like, if I were to have written out my dream marriage, like every level, spiritual, emotional, physical, friendship, you know, you'd be like, well, that's nice, but you
Nice
can't,
pipe dream is what most people would think.
yeah, you can't have it all. Like, there's always going to be a part that you don't connect in, and it's not true. It's like, I was just telling her yesterday, like, it's like having the ultimate marriage, like everything you could ever want, and you're always told, like, well, you can't expect all of that. You have to have some bad, good, or if this area is going good in your life, then something else has to be bad. I really bought into that story a lot too.
And it's deep, it runs deep in you. And so you don't even realize that you've bought into it. It just seems true. It's your reality.
Yeah,
But
and like so almost like you start like things are jinxing, like, oh, like this part of my life's going really well, so I wonder when
the shoe's going to drop.
the shoe's gonna drop, the bottom's gonna come out. Like,
Mhm.
so that's been amazing, and just the kids and the family life is just so calm and easy, and um it's also fun because my wife, like I said, things just stopped happening almost instantly, and I was able to kind of share with her what I was learning, and now we kind of use the same language. Like the other day we got a call that in the past would have just dragged us down. Like someone was trying to bring us into their drama, and that would have set her off, which would have set me off, and then we'd be fighting, and she got off the phone and just said, "Well, that's not my story to own. That's
Oh,
fun to own." And
that's so good. I love it. And
been horrible like a year ago
yeah,
to have been in that. So
that's where you become the light. You become the person who holds light that everyone else then can learn from as mom and as partner. They're all now big distinction. Like they're not drawing from you, they're not plugging into you, they're plugging into themselves because they're seeing you do that for you. And so it's a beautiful ripple effect of transformation in and amazing stories from your kids too. As soon as you started dropping into emotional conversations with them, and I just remember some of that happened even during the program, just really being able to build their emotional fluency and help them to really unpack what's going on for them so
yeah,
that they could feel so much more strengthened and resilient.
yeah, I definitely was buying into it's up to me to regulate everybody's emotions and make sure they're like, I was feeling even my kids' emotions like 100%
Mhm.
and owning that, and now it's just like we're getting really good at handing the problem. I love calling it handing the problems back to them.
Awesome.
and and
Yeah.
it works really well.
And instead of resisting that, their freak out, resisting that or avoiding it, you're acknowledging it and you're helping them to then own it themselves.
Or fixing them.
We or fixing it for them. That was right. That's your MO. Old pattern, old paradigm is that you would fix it. Will you say a little bit about what you mean by that when you say like I was taking all their feelings and I was sort of owning their problems as my own? Like how did you know that? I mean, how would you notice that showing up?
If one of my kids was upset, like I would just feel it. I would take it on, like it just would break my heart if they were upset. Or um, another bad habit I had fallen into was I wasn't letting them feel their own feelings. Like, don't be upset. Like, don't be upset. It's gonna rock the boat.
Mhm.
And then also just, yeah, like trying to. I still catch myself sometimes. Like, we all tend to do this. Like, someone comes home and says, "I'm really scared about going to school tomorrow because I have a presentation." And, oh, don't worry, you'll be fine. It'll go great. Like,
And now
oh,
you hear it. Yeah.
yeah.
So what would you say now?
Yeah, that sounds, I'd be nervous too.
Yeah.
Something like that. And just um, acknowledge their feeling instead of, oh, you shouldn't feel scared. It's going to be fine.
How beautiful for your children to get to experience being truly seen, and you holding space for them in that way because now you can. Your system is able to handle that in a way that it wasn't before. Will you tell us where the needle on like overwhelming anxiety is for you now? Do you, yeah, what's your read
I,
on?
uh, After most of my anxiety was just totally gone after the 12 weeks. And then I would just have maybe occasional, like every couple weeks something would happen that I'd start to feel anxious, but now I haven't even had that feeling for months.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Like I think it was our first take, but life is almost, it's like, oh, it's too easy. Like it just is very laid back and we love it, and we've cut out extracurricular activities, and the kids, like they wake up on their own and make themselves sandwiches for school and walk to the school bus by themselves and come home and go play outside, and we just
Simple and
love it.
radical. Yeah. And they're getting along better. They're starting to get along better. And you, like many of us that are parents, had stories that were so deeply ingrained about kids and their struggle, different ones of your kids who have struggles. And that was another beautiful bit of work that you did to really shift those stories and see what did you see as a result of shifting your stories about your kids' struggles?
Just, I think mostly that it wasn't my responsibility, I guess,
Mhm.
of like getting the message that if you're a really good mom, your kids won't fight. You can control their behavior. Um, that stuff just won't happen.
Mhm.
And then realizing like that's not me, and I wouldn't want to be that parent anyway if I could have that much control over someone,
Mhm.
and just kind of letting the control piece go, which then not only took me out of feeling responsible for their behavior and getting, defensive or feeling like, oh, I'm a terrible mom if they fight all the time, but then that behavior just also stops. Really.
Mhm. That's the key. And I'm so glad you said that, because people don't believe me when I say it. That's what happens when you shift your internal experience, when you shift and align your mindset, when you put together the steps that I have laid out for you, and we work on how to get you to do them, to make them authentic and really feel real for you. They do become real in your family. They become real in the family system, in the house, in the energy that's in the house. So I love it that you just validated that one. I think people are often like, huh, when they hear me talking about that in trainings and workshops, but it is the truth. And it's not that the kids never fight again, or it's not that whatever, but when they do, you are in a different place. You've gone from over here in stress about it and feeling responsible, or like you need to stop it or can't tolerate it, to over here
Yeah.
of they're having a tough moment. And you just can come at it with all new ideas and words, or not at all. And it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. Awesome. Okay. Or they stop. They stop altogether. That happens too. Okay. What do you feel like, at a personal level, if you had to pick, like, what's the biggest part of the contrast for you, or your favorite thing, or what do you like the best about your life now that wasn't here before? I know can be a big question.
Yeah. I guess like the ideal marriage piece, like it just feels very exciting and wonderful to actually have that and realize like that's a real thing. And I'm still learning to trust that, I guess.
Yeah.
But just how transformative it was, because I was convinced like the only way to solve that, like we need to go to therapy together and we need to talk about this
Mhm.
issue. If we could just solve this one, then we
Mhm.
can solve this one and this one. And really, once I started doing this work with you, it was almost, and I still find these times where I'm like, this isn't gonna work.
Okay, is this really real? Is this really happening? I
Yeah,
know.
and
Well, because it came so fast for you, so
yeah,
fast. When you stopped what you had been doing, then everything else changed
just
instantly.
stop. And and I would say 95% of the things we had conflict about, there wasn't a single conversation we had to have. It just was gone. And it
Mm.
was like, okay, now I'm in a good space to like really talk about this. Like we never had to have those weird, awkward, like,
I think that's a great. I love that you point that out. I think that that was a limiting sort of belief that you came in with, which is we're going to have to sort through the junk one thing at a time. We're going to have this conversation. So I better get calm first. So I'm going to work with Honor to feel like I can just kind of learn how to stay calm, and then we'll solve everything one piece of junk at a time. And what you found out within a week was, oh, the junk just goes away. I stopped creating it and it's not there anymore. And then we can't co-create it, because if I'm not creating it, she can try to make it all day long, but nothing's happening because
just pulling yourself out. And I always picture myself like a tree and the wind's blowing and I'm not going to get blown. But the second I did that, the wind also just stopped blowing.
That's so nice. That's so beautiful. Okay, so in terms of what you tried to get yourself here, all of us, most of us, a very high percentage of us as humans wish we could do it alone. We think we should be able to do it alone. We have a whole slew of beliefs that say, I'm weak if I ask for help, or it's too scary to open up, or no one can truly help me. It's up to me to help myself. What would you say about any of that now, having gone through this experience? Because you thought you should do it alone too. You tried for a long time.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, like I tried forever, or like we just have to talk it through, and I can solve one problem at a time, and seeing therapists and like, okay, here's what's happening this week and how do I solve this? And never really standing back to get the big picture and the inner work. And I think that's everything. Like, I don't think that's just like, oh, well, that's one way to do it. I feel like now that when I like to share with my friends and family about the work I've learned, and I just am confident, like, this is the way through. Yeah. It's a skill everyone needs to do.
Yeah. Awesome. You had tried therapy. You thought you'd have to go to couples therapy for a long time. You thought you'd have to hash out each problem one at a time. You said you were trying prayer, and you probably tried meditation. You were reading, devouring things. You were trying affirmations. You were doing
essential oils.
Yeah, essential oils. Lots of the things, all the healing things, all the good, healthy things. And your family, you're focused on nutrition. I know you had been doing lots of the healing things. But why not? Why wasn't it working, do you think?
Just because there were some deep stories in me that I was buying into, and it's weird because growing up, like, anything about the self is selfish.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's talk about the Christian background. Yeah. And you being a Christian, and the just the cultural influence and what you were holding inside about looking at me as selfish.
I grew up evangelical Christian, basically, to going to a Christian college, and just even focusing on yourself or thinking like, how do I take care of myself, is really selfish. And the way to change the world is to just focus on other people and just give more. And I was definitely in this pattern of, well, maybe I'm just not giving enough. And if I can just do more and give more, then people will maybe return the favor. But then you're resenting that no one's noticing. And, they might be over there complaining that you're not giving enough. And you're like, I'm just giving and giving and giving. I have nothing left in me.
And meanwhile, your adrenals were flat. Your body was.
I think I'm actually dealing with that a little bit, because my body handles stress really well until it's over.
Yeah.
And reacts. So I'm kind of recovering.
You're replenishing now. That makes perfect sense.
So I need a lot of sleep and taking naps every day, and just like, I'm so drained, but it makes sense because of what I put my body through for so long. And yeah, so just the Christian mentality of like, just pray. It's all about prayer. And really this is kind of weird, but it ate at my self-esteem a lot, because in the evangelical world, like, you're worthless except for the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
But you're supposed to also be glad that God loves you.
Mm-hmm.
And I could never put those two together. Like, well, if I'm so worthless and he only loves me because he's God, not because there's anything worth loving,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't make sense to me. And so I bought into that of like how can I feel comforted that God loves me if he only loves me because he's perfect and I'm a horrible thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so going through the program and actually like focusing on myself and being the person that had to love myself, I guess, instead of putting myself in positions of like my worth that's dependent on who loves me,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to convince me that I love them.
Yeah, great distinction. That's a great distinction. There's some conflicting messages that many of us grew up with in church and in community and in Christian families, where the message that gets communicated kind of under the radar, non-verbally, through from mom usually, is that you are not worthy of love, and we don't think of it consciously that way, but we enact it by living out of connection with our own what feels good and what's true, and we demonize all of that. So one question that I get a lot is, how does this work for me if I am still in the evangelical Christian world? And you believe in God? Are you still love? Are you do you love on Jesus? Are you a Jesus lover? Yeah, thought so. And lots of the women who I work with love Jesus, and some don't. Some do not follow Jesus, and do believe in a higher power or a divine intelligence, or do you know what I'm talking about when I say a sense of connection with a oneness that is bigger than us. And so one of the questions I get a lot is like, how does this work for me? Is this going to sort of like throw me into a tailspin over everything that I believe, and I won't be able to take in what you're saying because I'll be defending myself like from all of this because you're cray cray. What would you say about that? What was your experience?
Yeah. Well, I definitely hear that because I got the message for my whole life of like anything that's not just anything that's about yourself or I don't need, it's like, be careful, it's a slippery slope, and the new age stuff, danger, like, oh, if you have any type of inner power, like that's dangerous. And I think
that it goes against God,
yeah,
right? Is that
because really there's nothing inside of you that's worthy. It can only be from God. So
God? Mm-hmm.
God can fix something.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved it because, well, I think you do a good job of kind of like like whatever your higher power is,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't subscribe to pushing like a certain type of thought process. Like, well, just insert it here, whatever
Mm-hmm.
works. So that's really helpful. And I just dovetailed really well with my personal theologies and really learning that like the Bible is full of like God lives inside of me and God has given me that power, and the New Testament talks about how much power is inside of you and you have the power to live an enlightened life. And you know, we were created in the image of God, which means we have that in us. And
Yeah, God in us.
Yeah, this was all just starting to fall together. And it actually, between doing your program and some stuff we've had issues with the church about LGBT issues, it's just opened the theological door wide open for me. And I feel like my faith has gone so much deeper and things make so much more sense for me. And I have just a much bigger faith now because all of this is starting to get pieced together.
I love that so much. Yeah, thanks for sharing about that. I don't know, so everyone comes from from where they come from. So we all come with our own filters and our own lenses, but it is beautiful to know that there is so much overlap in your experience with the way that I'm teaching you to trust yourself and to trust the God that supports you, or whatever name, whatever name you have for that source, the infinite. And we feel most alone when we are living without trust. And there are many women who I speak to who've grown up in church, who've grown up in Christian families, who are currently in the evangelical Christian world, and they don't trust anything. There's a cognitive knowing of God and I'm a child of God, but not a body-based knowing of what that means, that I am worthy of love. So you beautifully were able to open up to that, and excited to hear your faith is growing and deepening. It's beautiful. Will serve you and your family so much more. Anything else that you want to share before we have to wrap up?
Oh, let me look at my notes.
Okay.
I wrote down a bunch of ideas, but
Okay.
it definitely was life-changing for me, because I'm also a person who needs to see, like if I start changing, say, nutrition, I need to have that feedback that it's changing something. Like, I'm not going to cut out milk until I can feel, the next day I feel better because I didn't drink milk. Like,
you need the evidence.
And this program, give me the evidence. And it was very fast. And what I love about your program is that it finally gave me the baby steps, instead of like I said earlier, I was looking out and I'd see where I needed to be, but like nobody was giving me how to get there, how to read a Bible scripture about being joyful. You can't. But
oh, sorry. I'm trying to. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed the end of what you're saying there. Okay. Just making sure we're still broadcasting on. Yay, I see a comment. Okay, thank you for that. And is there anything else before I fell down the rabbit hole of my phone making noise?
Yeah, just saying that the thing I like best about your program was giving me the baby steps.
Yeah.
To get to the end result of where I'm like, yeah, I get that that's the answer, but there's no way I can get there. And you're able to break that apart. Like, okay, here's how it's going to go. I needed that. And even just sometimes backing up and being like, okay, that's too much. Like, I need to go back even more, instead of like, well, why can't I just believe this?
Yeah.
I just have to, like, what's wrong with me? Yeah.
There's it's the hand-holding piece, that step-by-step hand-holding piece that obviously, I'm a big fan of, because I see all the evidence of how much it works, versus focusing on a problem in therapy 45 minutes a week, or trying to do it alone, even worse, trying to do it alone. So I'm so glad you chose to do that for you and get support for you, and just love so much seeing you having it easy and relaxing and having fun, not to mention this incredible joyful connection with your wife. It's so beautiful to see, really celebrating all of your joyful abundance and all of your wins with you, and just so grateful for you to come on and share. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
I appreciate it. Okay, anyone here watching, if you have questions, if you have, you want to know more, you want to hear Sarah answer your question, just drop it in the comments below. Thank you for those of you who joined. I see some Sarah friends on here, and thanks for coming. And anybody else, if you have questions for me, feel free, shoot them in the comments. We'll circle back later and answer those for you. And thanks so much for joining. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to message me and chat about what you saw here. And if you want help, you can also just go ahead and book a call for you, and let's talk about what's going on. I'm happy to listen and offer my expertise, and let's see if we can get you some help. Okay, lots of love to everyone, and lots of love to you, Sarah. Thank you so much. And I know I'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.